We begin the story with a group of inmates singing the national anthem, all in unison among the rows. That's when we meet Bomi, our protagonist. That same morning during breakfast, we also get to know his friends, Krasi and Daska. On the other side of the story is the head guard, Belki, a ruthless and very strict man who doesn't hesitate for a second to beat the inmates mercilessly. Belki runs the prison as he pleases, and there is not a single prisoner who hides any information from him. Everyone knows they could end up in the infirmary just for hesitating when answering a question. Every morning, prisoners who demonstrate good behavior are taken to a factory to work in exchange for certain benefits. 2 work days mean 3 days off their sentence. So the main motivation is to reduce prison time. This is where our group of friends comes into play. They are all workmates in the same factory and therefore share the same cell, which makes it easier for them to protect each other from attacks and abuse by other prisoners. One morning, the prison director, Captain Rado, summons Bomi to his office to present him with an opportunity. His team is the best in the work unit, and he has a proposal for him. The offer is simple: a new position in another factory whose purpose is more important. In exchange, they will receive more daily benefits, such as additional food and more time in the yard. But what Bomi really wants is to be allowed to visit his son, a demand that is not up for discussion. The director cannot simply let him go visit his child. Instead, he offers to have the boy brought to the prison so Bomi can see him in his office while wearing different clothes so that the child doesn't realize Bomi is actually in prison. To sweeten the deal further, Rado says that each workday will count double, meaning that 1 month of work will be worth 2 months off the sentence. Bomi could be home in 6 months as he only has 1 year left to serve. 2 new members will join the team. One is Atura, a maximum security inmate and an absolute giant who will be needed for tasks in the new factory. The other is Igata, who has a certain knack for antagonizing Felk and is therefore constantly getting beaten. Once the inmates are taken to the factory, they begin working while Felk instructs Kofa, his subordinate, on the key points he should be aware of for their security, especially regarding Igata, who is serving a life sentence and wouldn't hesitate to stab him with a piece of metal if given the chance. As expected, Igata quickly causes trouble among his fellow inmates, who wonder why he was added to the group. As an extra security measure, Felk places his and Kofa's weapons in a security box. They cannot allow the inmates to overwhelm them and seize a weapon. That would be the end for both officers. That same afternoon, the giant Atura stops working for some reason. When the team asks what's wrong, they find a small bird injured inside the machinery. The team decides to exert some effort to rescue the bird and then continue working. But Felk has no time for that kind of foolishness. He orders Kofa to turn the machine back on, which will kill the bird and allow them to keep working. When Kofa approaches the machine, Atura loses his mind and uses his chains to trap him by the neck. He then threatens to kill Kofa unless they free the bird. But Igata decides to take advantage of this opportunity and uses Kofa's baton to attack Felk from behind and knock him unconscious. A few minutes later, both officers are subdued, and Bomi finds himself in a tense situation. This job was his chance to reduce his sentence and get out of prison in under a year. However, the rest of the inmates don't have that same opportunity, and Igata in particular, who has nurtured years of resentment toward Felk, has nothing to lose. When Bomi appears to have made up his mind and approaches the door to alert the guards about what happened, Atura threatens to kill Kofa. After an argument, Belki says that all of them will be executed for what they've done. Bomi replies that they didn't do anything, but it was Atura and Igata who carried out the attack, and they are willing to make a deal with him. The deal is simple. Everyone will calm down and release the guards, then pretend nothing happened. After that, Felk will decide Igata and Atura's punishment. But Belki must promise to forget about the firing squad. Most of them agree to the deal except for Atura, who refuses to free Kofa to ensure the bird's safety. After they agree to remove the bird from the machine, Atura finally calms down. But Felk ruins everything by announcing there will be no deal and that they'll all die for what they did, and it doesn't matter if he gets out of there alive. He'll be happy to hear the guards shoot them all in a hail of bullets. Suddenly, the situation worsens as the guards knock on the door, and Felk alerts them to what's happening. They draw their weapons and try to open the door, but Bomi places a pipe in the gap to keep it blocked for the moment. The door partially opens and Daska goes out to try to explain the situation to the guard. Unfortunately, the young officer is a rookie, and he panics when he sees the prisoner, shooting him. Furious, Bomi destroys the door mechanism to make sure they can't try to open it again, trapping everyone inside. A few minutes later, Rado arrives at the factory, where he is informed of the situation and told that Daska is dead, which takes the crisis to a new level. They call Captain Sarek of the army to assist Rado, something Rado doesn't particularly like because of some existing bad blood between them. Inside the workshop, the situation isn't much better. Felk refuses to cooperate with the inmates, who believe that if they surrender, the same thing that happened to Daska could happen to them, though they don't know it was an accident. On top of that, Atura has no intention of surrendering and continues to threaten Bomi with killing Kofa if Bomi opens the door. On the other side of that door, Sarek informs Rado that he has 1 hour to resolve this with his own methods. After that, Sarek will take over with a military unit that will have no mercy. Over the loudspeaker, Rado informs the protagonists that they have 10 minutes to surrender and release the officers, or else their safety won't be guaranteed. Upon hearing this, Bomi decides to make a new deal with Atura. They have 10 minutes to dismantle the machine that has trapped the bird. If they succeed, he will free Kofa, and they will all surrender, a deal that the giant accepts. However, there is still the Agata problem. He is not willing to be executed once they surrender, so he'd rather die in a hail of bullets than suffer whatever Felk will do to him if he's freed. Because of that, he lunges at Bomi and tries to kill him with an ice pick. Luckily, Atura is now on the side of the good guys and saves him from certain death. With Agata subdued, time is running out to save the bird, and they begin to dismantle the large machine, using the giant's great strength and the tools they have on hand. Looking through the cracks, Atura can see that the bird trapped in the machine is a white dove. Bomi takes the opportunity to ask why he's risking his life for a bird. Atura replies that he's in prison for killing his brother and father. When they were kids, they liked to trap birds, but now that he's spent his life in prison, he understands the value of freedom and is willing to die so that the bird can have that gift. He has dreamt of that bird many times and believes it is his brother's spirit dwelling within it. The minutes tick by, and they've only managed to remove the top of the machine. Soon the guards will come in with tear gas, and then a shower of bullets will send them all to the other world. Now that they've all agreed on their plan, Kofa offers to help and checks the area with Krasi for any tools they can use. Once the 10 minutes are up, Rado knocks on the door and demands they surrender. Bomi approaches the door and tries to explain the situation about the bird, but Felk interrupts, shouting that there is no bird and that they just want time to escape. As a final offer, Rado says they will only get 10 days of solitary confinement for this incident, but they must surrender now or Bomi's chance at parole in 1 year will be ruined. When Krasi hears that Bomi will get parole for bringing them to that factory, he starts protesting, which triggers an argument since they only got a few extra minutes of yard time out of the deal. Shortly after, the door partially opens, and Bomi goes out with Felk, whom he releases in exchange for 1 more hour of time. The bird story is real, and once they free it, everyone will surrender. Suddenly, Sarek appears right behind Rado and draws his weapon. After a hail of bullets, Felk is wounded, and Rado has lost all control to Sarek's men, who are ordered to prepare to enter. While the soldiers prepare to turn our protagonists into corpses, they hurry to free the bird, as if setting it free might magically save their lives. After much effort, Kofa manages to slip his hand into the machine to caress the bird. They only need to widen the opening a bit more so he can get the bird out of there. It's then that they begin to talk about the possibility of the bird being magical. Like the stories they were told as children, where you could make wishes to mystical beings. The story is so convincing that even Agata decides to help. After all, they'll probably end up dead once the military gets in, and maybe one last act of kindness could change their fate. In a moment of seriousness among the prisoners, everyone says what their wish would be, and Bomi confesses that he only wants to watch his son grow up. That's the reason he accepted the deal in the first place, and he regrets that the others didn't get a similar deal. Just then, Belki asks for some water, and when Bomi goes over to him, Belki reveals that the weapons are on the shelf and makes him a proposal. If Bomi brings him the weapons, he will ensure Bomi is not punished and that he's granted his freedom when the investigation begins. He'll say that Atura and Agata were responsible and that Bomi helped him detain them. Then he'll make sure Bomi is released for his cooperation, but Bomi refuses and throws the keys in his face. He doesn't trust him and won't allow him to kill everyone with those weapons. Outside, the unit is ready, and Sarek's orders are to eliminate anyone who poses a threat inside the workshop. The team has found a blowtorch, but none of them knows how to use it. The only one with some experience is Felk, who can hear the soldiers outside and knows that soon they'll all die, so it doesn't really matter much what he does. Consequently, the group frees him, and he manages to melt the bolts keeping the machine together, causing its sides to come loose so they can see the bird for the first time. Once everyone can see the bird, they get distracted, and Belky takes advantage of this moment to move up and seize the weapons. Enraged, he threatens to kill them unless they drop to the ground. But Atura remains standing and focuses on the bird. Seeing this, Felk fires and tries to hit the bird, which unleashes Atura's fury. Even though he's mortally wounded, the enormous giant finds the strength to lift Felk and break his neck, unfazed by having bullets tear through his jaw. In a final moment of unity, the prisoners wash the bird's wings, which are covered in grease from the machine. Afterward, they begin gently drying it, hoping it can fly. All of a sudden, the massive door blows into 1,000 pieces, knocking everyone down. In that instant, Atura stands and raises his arms before the dozen guards, allowing the bird to fly free. Seeing this, Sarek gives the order to open fire. The guards kill noble Atura, then watch as the bird flies freely over them. As the bird escapes, Atura's life seems to fly away with it. A few seconds later, Bomi and the others stand up to celebrate that they saved the bird. Sarek orders his men to shoot and kill everyone, but they refuse to follow the command. When he tries to carry it out himself, Kofa appears from behind and presses a gun to his head. The movie ends with Rado entering the workshop and discovering that the story about the bird was real. Everyone corroborates the same version, that Atura lost his mind and forced them to help him. With Kofa's help, this story is confirmed, and the others were not punished for what happened, so perhaps Bomi can one day reunite with his son.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.